The studios will get the guest success Kamara, the public relations officer from Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency, and then we get David Joseph Leone, the national coordinator, Civil Society Advocacy Network on Climate Change and Environment, Sierra Leone, CAN-SL. Good morning and welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning, my ladies.
Of course, so yes, these guests that wouldn't dinner for just can't discuss about the heavy rain fall what happen. These are people that they for prevent, mitigate, and also for profound solution whenever disaster happen or before even it happen. Welcome, gentlemen, once more.
Yeah, good morning, and I'm glad for dinner also.
Yes, so we'll start with you, success. So, of course, Muna can do more for predictions and, of course, mitigate and all these things. So, what are the activities that do so far from the beginning of the rainy season?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. AYV, of course, on behalf of the management and, of course, staff of the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency, we're almost always grateful for this kind of platform. But for start with, I'm pretty sure this is not the first time for be on this platform. The Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency, as we all know, now the government body that one day where they deal with weather and climate change issues. And at the same time, now the institution down there as well, where they provide information across, you know, the agro-meteorological sector, across the marine sector, the aviation sector, etc. So in summary, you will look at the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency as a life-saving institution. But that said, just brief history. This agency was actually established by the British, you know, over a century ago. When the British left in 1961, of course, the government of Sierra Leone took over and became known as the Meteorological Department. At that time, it was a department under the Ministry of Transport and Aviation because of involvement, not the aviation sector. It will interest a lot of people for no say. The air traffic control at the Lungi International Airport in Lungi is manned by the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency because the know-how, the technical know-how for the plane, land, and grab now would provide that information in the aviation sector. So, because of all of that as a department, government may come and involvement be much more than at the aviation sector. But as time move on, in line with best practices, it's, you know, the mandate of the institution be renewed in 2017, you know, through the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency Act of 2017, we actually, you know, renew the mandate and give the institution additional responsibilities. Instead of the aviation, now we go as far as hydromet, the water where they fall, how we able for collector and get records of them. We go as far as also the marine meteorology, meaning people that would settle across the water them, how we will provide information then, you know, for save lives, the one the way they do sea transport, the one the way they do fishing, fishermen, all of them thing. They will also go as far as forget mandate as well, new responsibilities across meteorology. Of course, this is a science where actually they produce information for feed farmers then, so that they will able, you know, the plants are able to do well. Because a lot of people will agree with me, say, before this time as a country, we got a 6-month rain, 6 months sun. All of that don't change now. You know, we see say, you know, we're not even getting reach, you know, 4 months on even the sun, you know, right across the seasons. So with all these responsibilities that the institution gets, the same law, government today again in 2022 and watch and say, the Meteorological Agency Act of 2017 will review them. A review now, and waiting can happen, the institution can get a climate change department, not the agency, and also remove the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency from the aviation sector, alongside the Environmental Protection Agency, the National Protected Area Authority, the Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection Authority, and the Forestry Division will be under the Ministry of Agriculture. All the one there, and they place them under a standalone institution under the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change for provide oversight. But with all of this that I've said, and in tandem with what we do every year for ensure say, we don't only mitigate, we try for, like, you know, deal with the issues the way they arise inside the rainy season. Every year, the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency, they release what we refer to as seasonal outlook or seasonal forecast. What's in a seasonal forecast? This is a document they actually release every year where they give you detailed analysis of what you will expect during the course of the rainy season. Mark you, a lot of research, a lot of reports that will come out over the past 5 years and even in the last 2 years, don't they point to the vulnerability status of a country. How we vulnerable in our third most vulnerable country to climate change disasters across the world, according to the AR5, the Arctic Report 5. So with all of these, where don't they happen? For this nation in preparedness and also for able to respond, the institution every year they release this seasonal outlook and they get key information that way they carry.
Okay, so Sally, you don't highlight about the communication aspect of it, you know, for inform people. Apart from using the media, because then also they follow on our page, they see how frequent are the updates almost every single day about, you know, things, the findings and all. So which other methods and we can use for inform people then?
Well, we get quite a lot of methods, but before I really come to that quickly, so along the line, we release the seasonal outlook this year on 6th May, and we'll get key risks that we'll actually pick out. One thing we'll pick out, we'll say at the beginning of this year, the rainy season, we also get for experience what they refer to as long dry spell. What's in a dry spell? Dry spell now a period during the course of the rainy season where rain will come today, it will take 2, 3, 4 days before you see rain again, and then they get implication on health, how and why. Whenever rain come 1 or 2, 3 days, I mean one day it takes 2, 3, 4 days at the beginning of the season, especially with a long duration. That was how they can set on a drainages then, and waiting they happen, they serve as breathing space for what? For mosquitoes. So we also go further for say this year, we also get the risk of flash floods. Flash floods, of course, even though as per our analysis, we cannot say some we say this year we're not going to forget plenty again. If I don't until we really don't come to a lot of other people then on social media, they ask meteorological agencies say, oh, we're not going to forget rain this year. But yes, we get rain during the course, will they get plenty again? Now how? Are they saying the truth? But yes, when we talk this year, accumulatively, when you put the entire rain they fall this year, we know they get plenty. But we also forget a period they call the JATS period. When at the July, the August, and September, we also normally ask the Leoneans say when we know we season them, we can experience some kind of a rain. So half or even 1/4 of all the rains they can this year will come across this period. They will also go further for say this year we get early thunder and lightning. Me and say thunder and lightning. Now October normally we experience that, but don't begin to feel them from February until now. Because also for so we get the outbreak of insect and pest this year. Last year, in 2022, when we released the seasonal outlook, just 1 week after we release and we'll talk, so we'll forget the outbreak of pest and insect. Now we get the issue of anthrax in Port Loco. Where then for the first time they put coffee per goat and sheep and cow for move from one place to another. This year we release them inside May. A month after, we don't hear about the outbreak again of another disease among animal population like Liberia. And where Liberia, they share borders. So, 10 chances to what anything can happen. But I think some measures not being put in place for ensure, say, we're able for control land. So, we also look, say, this year, the beginning when we get sun, we get strong wind, dusty particles. Yeah? Because we look at all what they do, go to our data bank and look 30 years ago, what they happen. And we come with them key risks there. But what's also important now that every year, what would set the problems on the table, also they come with key recommendations. What do we do? Yes, these are the issues. But what do we do for ensure so we mitigate the impact of the rains? But largely with all of this that I have said, we get channels of communication. We take the media very, very seriously. Me being somebody with a super media background, and the institutions have in positioning, across the media, also they take the media serious. So every year, the first place of call now the media. So on 6th May this year now, F80 Charlotte Street office, we bring together 30 media houses, including AYV, from both the print and broadcast media, with somebody's information given say. In and I get the responsibility for take out to pay. Why the media? The ability of the media for reach more people just have to go. One day, what did they say on AYV? It don't go viral. So we use the media every year. We introduce them. The next step now also relevant stakeholders, especially with me colleague in the studio this morning. Of course, the institution when the NDMA, we also share with them because they're the standalone institution where they deal with disaster response and recovery, just in case any bubble show or happen. Then we will also get other stakeholders in, including the councils. And even in the next few weeks, we'll also want for now that we the radio they intensify, we want for also begin engage the regions for ensuring they know. But we also get with other channels of communication. We got a website, we got a Facebook page. Myself also we're very social media savvy. Of course, me a hands-on on the social media. We got groups that we don't form, we BCs them, we broadcast lists that we don't form. We also carry weather information on daily basis. Okay. Then, of course, the support of the community radios don't be quite extensive and effective over the last 1 or 2 months since we launched this now.
Okay, Success. Before we come into the prediction, for this JAS period, we also mention, we also get inside the studio other gentlemen the way they come for we more for this discussion. We get David Joseph Aliyu, we come out from the Civil Society Advocacy Network on Climate Change and the Environment, Sierra Leone, and we also get Mohamed Elban at the studio, we are the Director of Communications, National Disaster Management Agency. Before we carry on, I go actually want we get small information about the civil society organization and also NDMA waiting on our roles and responsibility. I will start off with you first, David.
Thank you very much. Want tell AYV, thank you for giving this opportunity for come talk to people there again, because we as civil society, this is our primary goal, engagement with people, either by in person or we use a medium for communicate with them. So for we as civil society advocacy network on climate change and the environment, we don't in existence for the past 7 to 8 years now. Our primary goal is how we take information from the duty bearers for ensure say we reach with them to that last mammy, that last community where they in the country for ensure say they get the right message, the right information, and take them from them. What in themselves want for the government do for them, they give it that message, we bring them to government. So we as civil society, we play that intermediary role between the government agencies and that of the the community people. What will be done to do all this year? We don't partner with them big institutions here. We work with them. We help them to propagate within the fee and the right message for reach the people. And also, what we do? We also monitor the activities. If we see say they go correctly, we bring them to them and say, this is what the people are saying. They go well, and this we self observe. How we go improve on them so that we all live in a conducive environment for better we as a country and as people of this great nation. So for we as civil society, our primary role is engagement, community education, and sensitization on climate change, health, chemicals and pesticides, because as we talk so now, we get, apart from climate change issues and also the flash flooding and rains in the rainy season, we get one key issue where very difficult with you as a country and we not take the right actions. It's when plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is a big menace now this country, now with communities and at the world. So we as civil society, they try to call government institutions, how them for make sure say we take the right action. Thank God, the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, we don't take this one of the step, which is for develop a rightful policy. Yeah, so then don't begin to take that policy, and we be the part of that process. We don't give your own recommendations. And how enough for stop no one at the big offices, enough for stop at the big towns. How do we ensure that we take and right down to the community? Let them know their laws the day, because when they know their laws the day, then we will take the right actions and adhere to them. But if they don't know, then they do what they want no more. So we don't be part of it. And also, we don't work with Environment Protection Agency for ensure say, now the other thing, first thing they see Yiba na Freetown Boku, but now Yiba don't know because Arata poison there, change medicine there, and this and the thing the way they contribute for kill them and create animals, then creatures, then bats, then our communities. Now we know they see them much. You understand? Some don't even they go into extinction now. So what's responsible is because of the proliferation of pesticides and chemicals in our community. Everybody they sell pesticides. Arata poison there, this they sell. So who is regulating them? The government agencies. So thank God, the Environment Protection Agency, we don't do some assessment for no say, would that they really the count chemicals? Would that they store? Which side they store? Do we have a proper storage for it? If not, how do we put in place a proper storage facilities for them chemicals who they get in this country? Mind you, like EU have a policy where they don't ban Boku chemicals na European Union countries, but those chemicals are being imported into Sierra Leone. Yeah, and I happen for be part of one network at global level, who they do advocacy on that also, that how we go regulate chemicals where they can with country, where they come on EU, they don't ban that in EU, why they can in Africa, with the use of our agriculture, with the use of our mining side, and this all they disturb the living conditions of our people in the community. How do we continue to ensure that with people who are charged with the responsibility, put in place the rightful laws? So we are there to ensure that when we get the information, we engage the rightful authorities to take the right actions.
Okay, so Mr. David, yes, so
you
of
can
course,
actually just give a brief background
yes.
of the NDMA.
Good morning. Thank you. The National Disaster Management Agency, an institution the government created in 2020, with a mandate for manage disaster-related matters across the country, and also help for build the capacity of communities for handle the local hazards across the country. Since then, we don't try for populate the agency and organogram for ensure say we get presence across the country, because Freetown not only Sierra Leone. We don't establish offices now Bo, Kenema, Makini, Port Loko, and Freetown. We know we regional offices. We also then have the for make sure say, we go on with the mandate of the institution at the areas, and we mandate, for manage disaster-related matters, not like short phrase, but you get big responsibilities, and the scope is so wide that for far too long we don't see we don't get plenty things that are wrong in terms of urban planning, for example, in terms of how relationship with the environment, the level of degradation, illegal human activities, and all of them, are put together. don't make we work very challenging and difficult for people for manage, because we work not only for respond to disasters. The main work of the National Disaster Management Agency across the country, the world, now for mitigate, for prevent, for get the ability for able for focus, go to communities, identify the hazards and then intervene. And over the years, we don't intervene in many areas, where we don't prevent possible disasters from occurring. Similarly, so we get both man-made and natural disasters. So, we part of work also now a humanitarian. We get the humanitarian component of work. So, for example, if certain incident that occur we related to disaster, we not get choice, but a day within we mandate for respond. Government can always provide some small token for cushioning the effect of the one that we affected, the affected population. So most times, and that make people can see we respond with some, small relief items for cushioning the effect on the people. Most times, if not like landlord, them would give them zinc and nail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but the areas are more where we focus on our mitigation. We don't work with the Meteorological Agency. We then they supply with the raw data for inform the public as to the type of weather patterns and the kind of rain we expect and stuff like that. We self can integrate that into a system and also alert with people that will go with systems along, develop tools them, we will reach out, we get with community volunteers them. I could train community volunteers now, 52 prone communities now Freetown we will map out. Then self cable for help for alert people them, like the one within low-lying areas, mostly for move, for the time being for evacuate. And some other precautionary measures also they do that on a daily basis. Two key areas that we don't, I would just maybe because of time I would just highlight so in a way now as a result of the intervention of the NDMA make possibly most times what we prevent NTR from happening, people don't get to know about it. You understand? And the one day we don't know what happen and people can really propel and because Saloma, we appreciate bad news more than good news. One at the Guma Dam. The Guma Dam, of course, we all know that recently the encroachment massive encroachment on take place. So when they establish the agency, we pay VCD, attention be drawn, by some residents around it. We go there, we look at the entire area. WFP will support you for do drone, assessment. Now the particular area, and we present them to the highest security level meeting. Nasa Leone, where the president also been there in attendance, and then they be attract the attention of the president so much that we all know how critical Guma Dam now a critical national infrastructure for Freetown, for example. They supply water to over 2 million people in Freetown. So if there is a dam collapse, God forbid, we all know the effect then they will get on the livelihoods or on residents in Freetown. So where we go there. There was the president visited, there was an immediate establishment of a committee. We investigate, those that have constructed houses in that particular area, how they acquired and building permits, for example, and a land document. And now, as I talk to you, that committee we don't conclude and they don't present the report. There is now a new re-established buffer zone and a red zone for the protection of that dam.
Okay. So, Elba, sorry. So, with the type of link from waiting Mr. David BC with regards to waste management being the one of the main thing that would cause, flooding and such disaster and all these things. So, I want for know waiting at NDMA the relationship with that of Freetown City Council because recently the excuse me, the gutters that they flop na Pademba Road where and come excuse me, I get cool. It did a flop and it all happened one time and then we do not see any actions being taken. It was difficult for vehicles then for move about, even people them as well. We get footages of that day and then when heavy rainfall again, it repeatedly happened again. So I want to know what kind of relationship with NDMA and that of Freetown City Council.
We get a very cordial relationship. Just yesterday now we interpillar coordination meeting with NDMA can hold, every month. The Freetown City Council was represented. The only thing as at now, the fact that they no get political leadership now, of course we all know why we are not one for getting to. But before now, we don't partner with Freetown City Council massively, and
how effective is the
fine?
work?
It has been very effective. So you find out over the last 3 years, we don't record floods. No doubt, there's no doubt about that. But the effect, the impact of those floods don't minimize greatly. And the reason why it minimized now as a result of then little interventions we don't do over the years. Now,
we get a tool bank we will establish, for example. That tool bank, like places like Moab. Now the main side in the road are Moab, Kokube, Kube. Then they come and can collect them tool bank there. We also give them some little support for always constantly clear. Every year, you know, from November of every year, we begin plan for implement we flood mitigation strategy for the following year. And from last year, October, we don't map critical areas, main drainages, you understand, where the NDMA would support from our partners, then they clean and use community volunteers would, you know, would give them. One short one we will do now, Regent, for example. The main streets now, Regent, we don't block, clogged with massive dirt. We get small support from UNDP. Now we go clear, we carry with machine and go clear. And as I talk to you now, so all the rain don't come. The we not get major report from Regent that, you know, because the one whole area can flood, you know, before now. So the floods are there, but the interventions and also not say with the work, of course, the capacity in a challenge, definitely, but the little resources all they get, we don't apply effort for make sure say every year in, year out, we work for minimize the impact. And most of them people that are back, like we talk about Pademba Road too, the cause of flood is not going to be attributed only to waste management, I tell you. Waste management is a component of that because like we would engage, if you go up Soweto, we don't go there. Most of the concerns, the people that they tell you that they don't have dumping sites. And I think they will look out for now because we will not only take decision for the good and engage them, you understand? So now they can force them for put dirty na gutter. So we work with the Future and City Council now for devise a strategy, how we, especially those that are residing on the hilltop areas, for low for see how we provide dumping sites for them in the areas and they so they will stop for trade dirty and stuff. But also we get the way deliberate attempt of people for construct na areas that we don't suppose for construct houses, where we don't, you know, put stop to, we don't work with Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Lands, and also the military. We don't broke, for example, there's a Beckwood Street now, Brookfield. Somebody deliberately go put slab on top the main gutter. We don't put this stop to, and that we are going to demolish that particular structure.
So that leads me to, if I get a monitoring team for ensure for say these are things, you know, that have been tackled before it gets out of hands. Like how you say the Regent and all, I believe, I don't know what team mean the cause because now your expertise down there, and I don't go find out and I'll see the update on our social media page. But waiting we go on for is that do you guys have a monitoring system for ensure okay before the rainy season, none of us say however it be something must occur happen because these are people know some people know they adhere to instructions. Correct. Even if I don't educate them and all these things. Correct. But when I get a monitoring team, we go say okay since the rainy season they're about to come, make we go monitor these areas, them identify areas them. Correct. We not identify for ensure for see things they want to be advised and these people adhere to them.
So two things. One, we have not only been identifying these areas, we also don't develop a hazard calendar for the year. That hazard calendar, they don't inform me now, say, with support from partners, from January to March, the type of disaster who they expect for happen in Sierra Leone, and the areas they wouldn't for happen. For March, April, May, June, July, we don't know the type of course, floods to August, you understand? We prepare from prior. And October, November, December, more of windstorm. And we get fire away in cut across. Throughout the year, we can experience fire. You understand? So we don't even forget a hazard calendar for the NDMA. And then they can inform with interventions. But over and beyond that, the NDMA will not even reach 100 across the country. We might not be able to be everywhere at the same time for monitor constantly, even though we get a whole directorate with a monitoring and evaluation. We don't work now for monitor across and identify hazard-prone areas. That's why we don't team, and I don't identify major areas. And we get with local, I call the ambassadors, we know community volunteers. They are very marvelous. I want to use this opportunity for express with profound gratitude for the invaluable contribution they do to the work of NDMA without salary. And save for the fact that we can try for make themselves feel motivated for the work. Because constantly on a daily basis, we also engage community leaders, chiefs, head masters, and then communities and they. Now we are happy that then people and now they take upon themselves and then communities and they for put a stop. And then if the person persists, like sometimes somebody the person get political influence or you know they get power, then they go to NDMA and we they intervene. We use the appropriate ministries. We partner with other sector players. If at all it is beyond we for make sure say that particular construction they not go on.
Okay.
So it is not only left with the NDMA. We also work with community people for make sure because it is broad. Now broad areas. For example, we not go left na Aberdeen for no thing they happen na Kokube.
Let me come over to you, Success. So actually tell we. What's in the prediction? Because already we're inside July, and inside this July we don't see already heavy rains. Where some man actually they say then carry rain, and even inside August, yes, we they see, and even inside July we see some kind of thunder and lightning where it's so severe. What's in the prediction from the Meteorological Agency with regards as with the end July now, inside August and September?
Thank you. I'm pretty sure say we don't echo this, we don't resound down over the last few months. And one thing also crucial, apart from the prediction, is the timeliness of the information we will release. Every year we ensure say, before, because anyway you consider the raining seasons, every year according to what we get, the first drop of rain they experience is in May. So every year between April and May, they give 1 month window, we release that information. Why? So that relevant stakeholders, such as the NDMA, when they jump that one day, when I then actually at the forefront of that one day, the Freetown City Council, and also the SLI, because remember that is one thing when we said don't see the missing, for some time now. We see where issues come up in 2017 in Motome. Preceding that year, of course, 2018 upwards, we see waiting SLRA they do. Now they make even before I come to the predictions, I still don't they also take this opportunity. I do them yesterday on SLBC. And I go do them back again on AYV this morning. That government also need for consider for bring back the national cleaning exercise. Because the national cleaning exercise since 2017, we will get Motome incidents, we government introduced in 2018, we don't see a drastic drop in the magnitude of incidences that will happen in the country, all the western, especially the western area, especially Freetown. So I still believe say the only magic now because we clean the gutter them. We as communications experts, and sometimes we talk also for bringing the issue of behavioral change communication. Like be part of the ways about the outreach and awareness is it. Because the habit of Freetonians then, for instance, my brother Johnson outlined the root causes why people they throw dirty. Because you don't get dirty box in the area, not a justification for throwing dirty in the drainages and for everyone's sake. You also get ways that how you do. For instance, I live in Grafton. But every morning I live all the way in the east part of this country. What do they do? Every morning, what do they do? And they ensure that they take a put a BMI motoka. They are depositing points. Not everybody will able to do that, not everybody get access. But if you able for managing dirty now you home, I should say you're not going to be able for the create all these issues. But they risk them, particularly when asked about this year. Now we're in the just period. Raining on the system. Yesterday, reports come out through SLBC or FNOT. I think CYV said for also follow up on that. Now Dodo. That there is whether that's a mudslide or a landslide or what happened, but something incident happened at Dodo as a result of the magnitude of rain where they fall. We're now in at the just period, the July, the August, the September, and we know what in August mean. We know what can happen. We need to be prepared. We mindset get for be okay. We also get for follow the information where they come from the NDMA and also the Sierra Meteorological Agency. But one thing we underline now that the work of the agency, we are a scientific institution and early warning institution. When we generate the information, we share with the relevant stakeholders, and it is now left with them for act on them. And apart from the risk of flash floods, outbreak of pests and insects, early thunder and lightning, long dry spell at the beginning of the season, and all these other parameters that we will look at, and also a sharp drop in rainfall. There's a deficit in accumulative rainfall this year, and this is what they happen for consecutively 3, 4, 5 years. And every year we not get plenty rain. In 2022, we get around 3,000 to 3,900 millimeters of rain. Before this time, 30 years ago, as per our analysis, right across the country, they get up to 7,000 or 8,000 millimeters, as the case may be. They don't drop because mostly of what they refer to as that anthropogenic, meaning human-induced actions, how they interact with the environment, plenty things they hold the court, they interfere with the foot of the hills, the top of the hills, inadequate, and of course, illegal building permits all over the country. People they do all kinds of things, and even they can way out with the tool with dynamic. In all of what we do, we come up with key recommendations. This year, one key recommendation: let we clean with drainages. We still get 10. We go into August. Let we clean the drainages then for ensure we remove the dirty. Because if the water not get road for pass, a regular road, a fair road for pass, unless in your backyard or inside your parlor, because we don't see the incidents this year. So we have to act on that. Secondly, also, The Ministry of Agriculture, Surveillance and Monitoring Unit for Disease may also be on the lookout for outbreak of pest or whatever disease among animal population. We will also think, say, vaccination of animal population as well key. We also don't go further for, say, the Ministry of Health also for be on the lookout for the distribution of mosquito nets and also malaria drugs where necessary. Because we don't say this year, at the beginning of the season, there's long dry spell. We get days away, it don't happen even inside July. Now we get days away in the country, they take 2 to 3 days rain on the camp. This they lead to breeding of mosquitoes. So the low-lying areas, the coastal areas, and many ministry also they on the alert for ensure say, share mosquito nets for keep people safe. And at the same time, key among all of what we are doing, I make it great for institutions like AYV. Now I want to popularize this. We cannot just develop information now the agency and keep up, but we also get for fair way how to popularize them because information is power. When you get more information, you're able to act on that. But amongst all of these that we have said, there's only one way now to go. We are going to the rains with God being our helper. Follow the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency daily weather forecast who they release every day. It comes out every day. There are BCs who don't set up when we get at the reach over 2,000 people every morning with a single goal with the BCs that don't set up in gadgets from the agency. And at the same time with Facebook page, if you cannot come to us at our F80 Charlotte Street, you not get the opportunity for the part of the public WhatsApp groups there. What do? Go on our Facebook page every morning. Just type Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency. I sure say there are a lot of people as well. We're not able to read and write. We're not getting facilities a day. Now, I mean, the community radios are also key. With special kudos to radio stations like the Sky 106.6. We also get, the Afri radio. We get all the radios and the regions there. Now, I make over time. I will take this opportunity again. For also, we want AYV for incorporate. Papa Navo, wherever you are, I sure say you watch this program. We want for them in an April. Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency now the only meteorological outfit in the south of the Sahel, this part of the world, where all what they do now free of cost, because that is how government wants it. And that is the arrangement. Most advanced countries, the meteorological services are paid for. But we they do not free of cost. A lot of media houses, yes, we know you need incentives for come on board because you said you get to go on in cost. But let me start somewhere. Information that I've been trying to do some research some time ago and I try to talk about how do we ensure compliance for let people to actually take ownership of the information what they provide. Places like the UK, there's an arrangement between governments and of course, weather institutions that even for let you be granted a license for operate a radio station, you for commit for the share weather information because it's a life-saving business. So we want media houses to come on board. We don't get a couple for Gide now, but we they provide information and also just mention Capital Radio. When we came some years ago, especially when I came to the agency failed not say Capital Radio will give information on weather. But our concern was, where were they getting this information from? So what did we do? The agency in wisdom engaged, Capital Radio, and we failed not say, they were producing this for themselves. And we told them that we had an outfit, which is mandated by government for dealing with weather issues there. Nobody not get rights. Whether in a mobile company, whether in a radio station for release weather information in this country. Because we see what happened some couple of months back, even before elections, I think somewhere in the Asian countries, something happened and somebody predicted weather. At the end of the day, the buck rests to the agency. Then the weather outfit and that. Most people were sacked. So we as professionals, always don't the voice. Why I emphasize these things, my sisters, is because there are a lot of people who come to the social media space who doesn't know how we work, what we are doing, what are our track records. We can say things them way actually sometimes. When I look at them, the best I can do now for providing the necessary information. But the agency, for being able to produce and also operate a weather outfit, there are 3 things you need to have. 1, you need to have the expertise. You're going to trust a lot of people for no say the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency is a WMO certified institution, World Meteorological Organization, we're part of it. And our agency, they go through, and our equipment, our infrastructure, they go through service audit every year. For know what we are doing, whether it is in line with best practice. So you get forget the professionals, the expertise. 2, you also get forget infrastructure. It will also interest people for no say the SLMet get over 60 rainfall stations across this country. As far as places like Sulima, as far as places like Kunkuna, as far as places like Musaya, we got over 12 agromet stations. We got over 8 marine stations in places like Bond, Shenge, Konakidi, Laka, Hamit, etc., etc. Of course, we automatic and of course manual weather stations as well they across this country. And we have people manning these infrastructures where also most of these things has been automated. We of course send cassava at the agency we connected to who get started this information. Why I say this on the state broadcaster is because we are up to tax as an agency. And thirdly, I didn't mention, you also get forget channels of communication. You get forget the expertise, you get forget the infrastructure, you also get forget the channels. We have several channels. We have our website, we go on Facebook. We are using the social media space as well effectively, and at the same time we are engaging the media. Don't just go to the media and say things, but come to the agency and show say
the good news is we're actually working on having a weather forecast on our AYV. That I believe in. But what I meant to understand.
Well, you have to engage the agency.
I believe
no institution has the right to put up one. You have to engage the agency because the agency is mandated by law.
Wait, that is something that we're going to do. So I remember saying vividly in 2019 I be engaged the director. I couldn't remember his name. And we make mention of having people that would be interested for sending a Kenya for go be an expert on weather forecasting and all. So what I want to know, was that ever achieved? Because since 2019, now you don't do, you and other people with the communication, you don't do this job here and all. And the mandate and the aim for that particular thing, the way the director be tell me was for me to go get people and for weather forecast for the work at different stations, them for the update people about everyday doings and all. Now, we achieve that at all?
Of course, we don't train quite a lot of people. Then, of course, going forward, we don't involve the media. In fact, when we actually take over at the agency in 2020, the first thing the agency do was to incorporate and put the media at the center of what we are doing. And that is how we are rolling it. But I also go interest you that all of what we do now, the Meteorological Agency, the expertise or maybe the trainings, even the capacity, is not provided for nationally. All of our staff, whether forecasters, observers, and of course with 2 chartered meteorologists in the agency, the person of the Director General, Mr. Ibrahim Sinekama, and of course the Deputy Director General, Mr. Gabriel Baka, are trained out of this country.
But we don't think and for say, okay, these people are not the training, or how about we try for fit to the purpose of reporting, such as working in the media stations, and probably reaching out to the media stations, say, okay, we have these people who are well trained, they're experts and all. One for me then day for the give updates on daily activities of weather. Was that ever thought of?
Yeah, it's achieved. We've trained since 2020. Every year we train over 30.
But not then the media, and that is
30
exactly
media
what
houses.
you want.
No, just ask. You can speak to. We get with Anchor. We get, of course, people in everywhere. If you actually ask inside AYV, they will tell you say every year SLMet they train over 30 or more media houses, both regionally and also nationally and regionally on what we are doing. For instance, if you follow Skywa 06.6 every morning, you have the lady who presents their program in the morning, Khadija Jallo, that is there. She's been trained many times over the years. I'm sure there are staff also from this agency. If you talk to Mustafa, I think there are staff here we know. Of course, Afri Radio, Justice FM, SLBC, Star TV. If you ask, there are people who have trained for bringing the all to speed with what they do. Because waiting, we don't miss it over the years. Now, the fact is, we're not a scientific institution. Most of the information they generate at the institution, they are so ambiguous that sometimes people don't understand. So what the agency don't do this year was to bring a public relations space, a good one at that, for ensure so we scatter them here to Fambude. And that is exactly what we don't do for let people to understand.
So what I meant is like having a correspondent. It's like we will say if we get to reporter that we then do for State House and other things. And so these are people who could actually work in a meteorological agency, but they work also with AYV, SLBC, and so on, just for the weather forecasting. Has that been thought of?
Okay, it's been thought of, but so all those things have resource implications, and at the same time also opening up our infrastructure edifice at the agency.
But that is something that you want to achieve.
That is something we want to do. In fact, it will interest the public for those say. We have our forecasting house at Tower Hill. Over the years and before the war, Rebel can shoot. They see one whole big thing, big board now Tower Hill. Then in the radar. Over years, when the British Meteorological Services established the Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency, then that's a radar where actually when big Kasao Bobushiwa for happen at the world, especially the Asian countries in the Americas, that instrument where they up here and they pick up because most times this is they start at the Gulf of Guinea. The waterways around Liberia, Salon, they start. And most times it starts small like a capillaries. That was meant to capture it. They can even send alert a year before it actually happened. When Rebel come where the war been there, they shoot and they point them. The United Nations Development Program over the last few years, Dr. Tafit say, the agencies across the world, meteorological outfits are moving forward. What do we do? So they don't open that office. That's how they tell you. So I don't know. I'm not actually there at the headquarters again. Me the day with our staff, with of course me Deputy Director General, Head of Operations. Now they will do now. The dream, of course, and the positioning of the institutions. Now for they do like a CNN, like a way you're not going for tune into wing with time. But this all has resource implications. I believe the elections are over.
Okay.
Of course, we don't get a new minister now in the office of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. I shall say we'll almost sit on tranga one way we sit on fasting. Now sit, we'll go bring up the issues there for see how we're going to take them forward. But yes, it's a dream, it's something we want to achieve, and that is what the agency is working on for expand this year. Last year, I mean, before elections, the agency embarked on a 2 weeks monitoring right across this country for not only able to watch USAI infrastructure we don't need before, but at the same time for also able to identify new areas where we can expand.
So
and that is part
quickly,
of
before
actually
I'm
our
going,
agenda.
David, for respond to some of the NTR from the side of civil society,
yeah.
success, we don't get a lot of information now about the agency. Now, waiting Salone people and go able for know as we go into August. Waiting we for expect as Sierra Leoneans, and from the side of the agency as well, waiting at the advice where you will give to Sierra Leoneans as we approach August.
There's only one advice. We'll get rain on the system. We don't talk on. We say this year, where the rainy season begins, there's long dry spell, but going to the jazz period, there is rain in the system. There's only but one way to go. The NDMA, of course, the EC open. BB go right now, they listen to all what is happening, and shortly me border I not talk about to do. Either he knows or he's going to follow up on that. But similarly and most importantly, make them follow the weather information with the SMET agency they release on a daily basis. Couple of years ago, when we begin release, a lot of people then come to we as a way of feedback, say, the particular one will be released, they say it's not only embedded with a lot of jargons, but also get a lot of data. They confuse people. What did the agency don't do over the last 3 months? We don't watch at them. We don't scatter them. We don't chap.
And that's why I want to actually chap. And for the people that understand, say August, at this would they expect. September, at this would they expect. So we still don't know how they work.
When we come to issues of weather, you cannot be too exact.
Yes, but then
because
there
for
are
instance,
predictions.
Yeah, there are predictions. They are there. The predictions are getting in the system. We're getting there for calm. So therefore, the only way you can keep safe yourself and all of us in these studios is to ensure that we follow. Like for instance, the way I dress every morning is informed by the weather information that actually produced by the agency.
So we not get that information.
So I therefore they give before they come on the studios, I therefore take numbers of una and add on an BBCs that every morning look at it. For instance, every morning when I look at the weather information, I know say there is either a medium chance of rain or maybe there is more chance of rain. What do? I go into my rain boot and I also advise you whether you have to lock your window, whether you have to use your umbrella. And for most of you, we also Vicky, it will advise you. Whether I have to go through Congo Cross, we know what take happen at Congo Cross when you really intensify. Whether I have to take the hills. So all you can do, follow Sierra Meteorological Agency on Facebook. So
considering the topography of Sierra Leone, how safe is Sierra Leone? You know, because of the hill and so many deforestation and all these things. I believe these are things where they affect and contribute to the climate change as well. So how safe?
Well, I have to tell you, interestingly, as an institution, we're not the only deal with weather, but also cut across climate change. Mark you. The focal point institution for Salone, for United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, now the Sierra Meteorological Agency, now the host, and the person of Mr. Gabriel Parker. So we is so much into issues of climate change. And I will tell you, say, over the years, for the work I do at the agency, I have actually been preview. I don't get access to a satellite image, aerial view of it. And I will tell you, say, there's a significant treetop loss. What do I mean? We don't cut plenty. The way I would interact with the environment. And at the same time, like how they say, they deposit rubbish everywhere. But let us not forget that the IPCC, the Governmental Panel on Climate Change, Article Report 5, 2 or 3 years ago, it came out, don't clearly say it has not changed. We then make efforts. We don't see how government said on the position he said because once that report they come out when they say Salone are the third vulnerable country to climate change disasters across the globe, you see government have formed since 2020 a standalone institution on environment and climate change. They also established NDMA. And even the government documents what they work with, the National Medium Development Plan 2019 to 2023, Cluster 7, clearly talks the government need to take their emboldened actions and for sure say we deal with issues the way they emanate in the environment.
Now,
and for that, they got an NPA, EPA, they got an SLMET, they got an NPA, they got a nuclear safety, they got a forestry division, put it under the Ministry of Environment so that we go talk. You just see what the government don't do. Don't create an initiative, whether a presidential initiative on renewable energy, climate change, and of course, other issues. So I believe, say, this government and us at the agency will all day in ways and for dealing with the issues. But I tell you, there's room for Michael work more, for Leone act more, for ensure say we self catch up, and most importantly for tap in. Because issues around climate change are very expensive. For instance, the renewable energy revolution, what we talk about energy revolution, we don't see what the Ministry of Energy don't they do over time with the mini grids across, the chiefdoms and the other parts and up country. But we need to do more. So I sure say the positioning of His Excellency President Bio now with the presidential initiative on renewable energy, climate change and food security, I am sure there is room for improvement, but with time, with all these works we are doing.
David, you already know some of the things that we don't get from the Meteorological Agency, and also From NDMA.
Yes.
And from the position of civil society, I also make you rub more on how UNICEF can even engage the normal Sierra Leone person for know about some of the information there.
Thank you very much. And one way we do it is then get the information. Yeah, at the right institutions, just like where my brother they say and how Mr. Bassem they say, is that then they get the right information, but how regularly and effectively then they reach the people. And you remember where success they talk and say, yes, then they do the bit, but then challenge with resources. For instance, all the data where they producer, who are the CW? Now the one that no more way get access to them device here, where able go Facebook, now then they see we, or where they free time, where get access to television. What about then the way they Kailan, the people that are Kailan? Are they accessing this information? Is a big challenge. So what thing we they say is the daily predictions whether they bring out, which innovations we go able to develop for ensure say that mommy where they at that village. Every day how Freetonian they get them, let himself get them. That is one. Secondly, enforcement of the laws. We get very beautiful policies in this country, yeah? But how are we enforcing those policies for ensure say that layman adhere to that policy? It's a big challenge for institutions, for the institutional health, and for even the government, because we're too lenient with we self. For instance, they don't outline all the challenges in relation to disaster and in relation to the weather situation. We don't know say now, yes, July, August, September, again for me, we expect heavy rain. And now within that period, all the disasters we don't get. Now within the periods there, we don't get any disaster. Just like we mentioned Motomé incident, and even last year, there's all now within this just period, we get the incidents then. So as a Sierra Leonean, how will they ensure say that mommy where that incident be happen to? We go meet and ensure say you be there last year, this incident happened to this your brother, this your sister. Wouldn't be happy when we meet them? Why will not for allow you did it, let this same incident not meet you again? Which actions we don't take? How wouldn't the law? Wouldn't the law say for happen for let that person not continue for staying at that side? How we don't enforce the law? My brother be mentioned on the issue of behavioral change. And at then we can kind of where they engage the community people, where they talk to them. Yes, government gets a lot for do, but you self as community people, yeah, you get that small one way they play, which is you get that your small action where you for take. For instance, waste management, yeah, how will they generate with dirty in our houses? Will they mix up all, put one inside one place? We know they sort with dirty. By right policy, we say they put the food waste for the separate, not different plastic. We get them things they put on different, bottle differently. So that man where they collect the dirty, where it come, you don't say you don't separate them. That food waste, you can use them. You dig small hole in your backyard, you put on there, you don't develop a compost, it serve as a fertilizer, you do your backyard garden. You understand? But we know they do that with the mix up all. At the end, we don't want to pay. Everything government for, we don't use this communist pattern business that everything a government for doing, we don't want to pay for dirty. Government gets a challenge and through the councils, which is, for instance, inside Freetown City Council, all will be nowhere now, be deposit inside, they don't sell all. People are not build house all day. So that layman, yes, he gets a challenge, but not to excuse back. He gets a responsibility. He go allow dirty flop in room, in house. No, if he gets small. City Council, we don't count tricycle initiative. These are all innovations for ensure say we manage waste. How will they utilize them tricycles for ensure say that with 2,000, 3,000 things they know there, yes, possibly they don't say don't go 5,000 now for bad. A challenging, but if you really they manage yourself well, you for able to address that. So we as a society, they come in as intermediary for tell and say yes, even though with the knock government and back, yes, you don't do well, you don't do well.
Them back way as small rain car, pull the
dirty, put them. Then self when they talk to them, there comes in the behavioral change. You understand that you're not a good citizen. That is why we don't appreciate government. We don't bring the civic education to the Ministry of Information. Now it go with information and civic education. Yeah, so that let's really know say not only in right if or no in responsibility also. Yeah. That as a Sierra Leonean, I get a responsibility for living a conducive environment, and I get a responsibility for ensure say within government say la not do.
Okay, so Mr. David, they speak of resources challenge and all these things. So how can people manage that aspect? For ensure say you reach to that hard to reach areas for communicate all these the way you don't see, but try to mitigate the problem.
I love this question. It's challenging for us. as civil society. Mind me, we know they get even subvention, like the government agencies where they get money. If only you know use your brain, you engage the right people, you write, you find English, you put on paper, you go down. If you do all work, if you not get who knows you again, for identify, say this man get potential, and they do a lot, how we able cushion and small for go. Of course, like Met, NDMA are not engaged it much because they are just a new institutions. But Met, we don't do from the day where they as department, from the past 3 directors where we don't do, I don't do always engage them. They're anti, like what I mentioned earlier. All this way you don't talk here. Who does here? Now who are they free to? Who are they go? Who are they can? Who get access to their mobile devices here? That's it. Now Android. That man will get that.
There's a lot of it. In fact, if you just come in, when we do last monitoring and move around, what do we do? We try for if everywhere we step, we go to the radio station. We did it.
Yes.
Radio stations in places like Kabbalah, radio stations in places like Kailahu. So we collect numbers of all these people. I don't create a WhatsApp group every morning. There are radio stations all the way in Kono, Kailahu,
and good thing AYV7 don't give the platform because if person they listen to you now, we get radio stations. Then this also they on radio 101.7 FM. Where people themselves all of us
listen.
they listen and
Both
learn from some of
NMA,
them here.
Everybody they listen. The good thing where they liking, where are they at the provinces? And they listen radio so much. You understand? But we are challenged. Some radio stations, electricity is a big problem. Some man, they get television, not the provinces. Why you not get access to electricity? They get radio, they not get money for buy battery. Now, where's now then battery we don't can now and charging, where you go charge them, how you they charge your mobile phone, and so you they charge the radio back, so it will last you long. Now then they help the people themselves. But like when you be asking me the question of funding, it's a big challenge for us. Then they don't try. Every year we self can one go cup. The within the column conference of parties. Conference of parties. Now then they go sit down, they agree say what thing they do in relation to address climate change and other disasters in the world. Every year it happen. Yeah? But as civil society, what in our presence? They don't get money for bring we on board for Can We Go. The deputy director, Gabriel Kwaka, is a very good friend of me. He said, brother, you understand? Every year I can apply, if they put me name, but there is no funding. Who that go pay me fair way for go? Because when we self then and then decisions side them, we side the world, they take them decisions, and then we want less met through Mr. Gabriel Kwaka because he is the focal person for United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Yeah, when I am the focal person for Sierra Leone. Yeah, let it go ensure say what in government go put aside so that let we get independent views. Where they go sit down, look at what thing they happen at the side and they so that we can. Because one issue where I don't really they look at all government agencies where they go, where they can, how are they engaging us as citizens? How do they relate the information where they get yonder? Yeah, because by right, all information where they get yonder, where they count them, they get for call a conference or whatever. Not only exchanges between them, the ministries, departments, and agencies, but the populace itself. And that is why, like last year, I've been engaged the media very strongly for ensuring say, what's in the happy under what get them because. We serve how we there so we get with Africa colleagues there who they work with, we get the global colleagues them and civil society who they link with. If I'm able to go and they follow through Zoom meeting, that is why some of we happy. 24 hours, that means data. For must make sure say I get on my phone. So that some conferences where they happy. If I know that they join the Zoom, they hide me. So that I'm going to get the right information and give the people.
On the side of NDMA, what are some of the steps that we want to put in place for, especially the jazz period where when I don't talk about where we can now into August and following September, and of course success don't mention some of the predictions would say we get for rain still there in the system. What's now some of the measures that we don't put in place and any risk day where alarming where you think say salon people for know about at the moment?
Thank you very much. Like I stated initially, we actually don't do hazard mapping already, and we get a calendar. That calendar then they determine and direct with path, in ensuring that one, we develop communication strategy for every period. For this particular period, we don't develop plenty jingles, not only for flood but for fire, windstorm, and floods. Those jingles are being aired across the county at the moment. We also currently AYV air a documentary. What we do, we currently is being played, on AYV. Where you go for do with, flood prevention, for this particular period. So every period of the hazard calendar for the year, we will intensify and implement most of the strategies that we don't develop. But to a very large extent, I think, say, if I follow you understand, say, in disseminating messages, you need to know your target audience. You understand? Say, for example, we don't say rain in the system. What we don't try to do, now follow you for disaggregate that data for example, if rain they come, not every part will be affected. And some people, if you send messages into them, randomly, they might get annoyed. You understand? Or maybe sometimes they're not getting any business for do that. So what we don't do, there's a tool we don't develop, what they call the Kobo tool. We don't develop, and we're able to identify all the areas. Currently, we work with NCRA and the mobile companies because they get the data of who side people that they reside. So, for example, if rain they come, if we don't get alert from SLMet that there's going to be more than 200 milliliters of rain, for example, it will lead to flooding. All the disaster-prone areas, especially the slum communities, will send that message. Now, they know more they get. You understand? We want to do them in such a way that we will target specific individuals or communities who are exposed to specific vulnerability. You understand? So that is ongoing at the moment. We also don't try for we able to update with data, because before now, the ECOWAS, we, of course, now the regional body, they get a directorate, we're responsible for disaster management and disaster risk reduction. Mm-hmm. That particular directorate did not get any data on Sierra Leone. No data, for example, like how many disasters they will occur. And at that, ECOWAS can always use, one, for do goodness to member states, for allocate resources to member states. And because from when we start 2021 to date, we don't update, and ECOWAS get data, disaster data for Sierra Leone now. So NDMA don't expose to a massive amount. We now flood, post-flood recovery assistance. We get for CAM, plenty of people that we affected in 2021 get for benefit from it because of the data we don't make available. So we get for be very, very specific in one, analyzing with data, and two, the targeted population. Internally now, we also don't try to the Directorate of Risk Reduction, because these are very important components we get for do to work. We don't establish that the newly constructed Freetown International Airport, the Aeronautical Search and Rescue Center. And now we don't establish a unit now we office. We get for deal specifically with search and rescue. We're a major component for lay an airport operate, because of course we don't get control over emergencies. An emergency can happen. Mm-hmm. So we for able to get the capacity, if anything, God forbid, happen with an helicopter or plane, you understand, we get forget the manpower, the communication infrastructure, and the drone technology for low able for ensure that we're able to do search and rescue and save life.
No.
Quite recently, we don't organize training for partners, like the police, Freetown City Council, Maritime Administration, the Marine Navy wing of the military. They all we train them in there, and that's in the because the only something we be doing at the region we get for do search and rescue and Liberia be there. You understand? So, but Sierra Leone don't get we're a sub-component of that particular audio in Arabia. So, over and beyond Nandi, my colleague talk about behavioral patterns and change, you understand? Now, it's then at the center of a work what we do. But most times, again, you don't have to be oblivious. Once, in as much we try to develop messages for address some of them specific challenges and raise awareness, but you also get for make room for feedback. And then feedback is very important in addressing some of the challenges that within people and they're exposed to in other communities. You don't go pay blind eyes to that. So what you don't do over time? We don't engage the Ministry of Lands, for example. We don't identify plenty of other areas and we then get for GI to Freetown City Council for we able for get dump site in specific areas, say for the hilly areas. Plenty of people in the bill without land permit. What we don't do, there is also various pillars who don't establish the NDMA, and then pillars and we make sure specific other agencies, ministries and departments, they provide leadership on these pillars. For example, like the risk reduction pillar, the Ministry of Lands, and then the head pillar lead in that particular pillar day. Say if we go now in our community, somebody don't go build beyond the marketed zone or on wetland or area outside you're not supposed to build, what you normally do, the good minister, because Ministry of Land and get the authority for provide or give out building permits. So together with the work for ensure, see, one, we said, no, this building permit the issue, but now the wrong side, you're not supposed to build it, so you for left here. And Ministry of Lands always deal with you because we're not going for work in isolation. So we work a cut out for we that we need for work with other people for ensure that we're able to carry out, we work seamlessly. You want to ask a question?
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. So, of course, you don't listen to the gentleman who all try to achieve the same aim, on all the work in hand, because you don't listen to the constraints such as resources and all these things. And NDMA gets national disaster management funds, so they can provide for preparedness just in case an emergency, emerge. Sometimes like you say prevention is better than cure.
Sure.
Has there been any thoughts of, probably these people are all the time for achieve the same goal, different agencies all the time for achieve the same goal. Has there been any sort of thing like a relationship where as, okay, these are people who not all they work with, come together and probably listen to their constraints, which is fun. So instead of go save funds for just in case something outbreak, how about trying to use those funds for try for prevent them from happening? Well, so I don't think about, any way for the help in terms of resources for different agency or organization that would work for achieve the same goal?
To start with, let me put this into context. Yeah? The agencies where government did establish them, probably yes, there are financial constraints, but they're exposed to some resources. And government can always try, even though probably sometimes what normally finance can approve, not to any gig, but they will must try for CC and spread them across, you understand, for letting them augment their activities. So the disaster risk reduction account, it sits with the NDMA, sits with the Office of the President. So most times when the incident happen, we go on the field and do assessment and collect data and write and submit the data to them. And there is also a plan with the Ministry of Finance for established, because this is not a recommendation. We currently don't try to roll out a whole disaster finance policy. What we depend right now, you understand? And one of the recommendations from experts that we will get from the World Bank, we don't support you for develop that disaster risk financing policy. Now that we need to get a standalone account with government supposed for big, or if they get small thing and put in the event, like especially if we get a major we go overwhelm we as a country or the national emergency issue, situations. So government will go to that and the government will go start for fair money. Those are funds with government in touch. You understand? Like for example, like the motorman issue. You know, C23, you understand? This is not a requirement across the group at the camp. So most times what we don't do at we own level, now for partner, we don't get MOUs with plenty institutions with our NGOs, some NGOs, some local NGOs and international NGOs. We get plenty MOUs with there. Goal, the support you understand, because they feel say what thing would they do, they are interested in it, and we don't present compelling concept notes to them and proposals, and always in kind of support. UNICEF the same thing, UNDP the same. I believe say most of them, like UNDP, they support other institutions, and we, themselves they work towards the same, achieving the same objective. So the issue of finance, you understand, the NDMA of course is not averse to the fact that we have a partner, but we have also get financial constraints. I must tell you that, understand? So what normally we can do now for make sure say we not only rely on government subvention, but we also find or devise strategies for reach out to partners. We go support with activities and complement government efforts in managing disasters in the county. So on the whole, I think say we did on the right trajectory. As a government, as a country, and as institutions, you understand, we're on the right trajectory for me, because before now, some of the basic, we sign up to conventions, global conventions on climate change, managing disasters, but we come domesticate and locally. There's nothing to write home about, and we don't make progress. There are challenges, I must state, you understand, the issue we get for do with land degradation, for example, we don't try to see how we go for formulate policies for enforced compliance, you understand, in areas where if people go against certain things, how we go. But again, you understand? For example, like demolition. You cannot just go and demolish, a house without court order. You understand? For like the people that were in the slum communities, you just can't go there and say, I'm going to take you off the slum communities. There are a lot of intricacies we hover around relocation. You understand? Again, for one, you got to think about the security, get security implication, you get human rights implication. So what you don't do, because we're not able to get the capacity for relocate most of these people, to a better place. What we going to do over the last 2 or 3 years? Now, for we devise adaptation measures for the
and
people.
Just as you mentioned, the people in the slum areas. Lastly, as we try for roundup, we already know say Freetown citizens, residents actually maybe around 60% or more they are the slum communities. As we come into this into the heavy gains, we already there and we expect more. As when I don't say in the system. Any word to these people occupying these spaces?
Yeah, over the years, it's not just about now. You understand? Like we didn't know, can I tell you, we talk to the no. We don't need prepare them communities here, like I tell you, adaptation measures. Because now didn't they, so we will devise strategies for them adapt. So if rain come, at least if they get flood, the impact will be minimized. What we don't do over time? We don't make sure say we support them from cleaning gutters. We don't make sure say we support the chief them. For let them get the power and call we if somebody the bill and say for bill for block men got outside water they pass for go block her and make sure say divert the water we rinka the go and the entire community we go stop her. So all of them have interventions. They don't make them people like who day now you understand when once rain come even though yes minor floods that take place but we don't minimize the effect. One there are constant cleaning going on in those areas. We get a tool bank who UNDP UNICEF worth of $30,000 tools shovel pickaxe. Wheelbarrows, hand gloves, ring gears, plenty. They can now and can collect and then the right to who they give them. When they go use them, they return them back. Other communities and can come back and we go monitor. We can solicit resources from them people there for make sure so we employ the youth them there for make sure so they do clear the drainages and they and stop people not for bill, who said not for bill because then 2 things in there. Now the major factors, especially in slum communities, were responsible for flooding. Either somebody go build on top, gutter, we're not supposed to build, or go bank in fence, a divert water go to the entire community, or then go to a dirty, now gutter, the gutter will clog, and where in come the water not get side for pass, so you go divert go inside the community. Okay. So we don't need to try for minimize that greatly. We always encourage people them for let them continue for do them small things them where they minimize the impact of flooding at the communities because if somebody lost in property, the NDMA will come and can give some relief item for cushioning the effect or in house or whatever level of support. But if you lost your life, God forbid, NDMA will not be able to replace your life. So the responsibility lies with the people themselves for make sure say one, it will take 10 years that you host, for example, check your wiring. These are all the messages that we don't send out. You understand? You don't go in a community so careless for checking windows, whether sometimes this particular window I don't slack. So we have rain come and we just blow them off you come on. Or you get stick where you see say the branch, one of the branches don't hang. Sometimes small breeze guy go, you left arm unattended to. That of course we all get a responsibility. So we roll now for continuously to draw their attention and talk to them. And I want for state here that we satisfy because so far this year in 2023, I tell you with all with data, most of the calls we don't cancer, we don't record the lowest incident of floods and incident, especially disaster for since they established the NDMA this 2023.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Well, we're not getting much time on the paper, of course. We're going to make it tell with the prediction.
What are those adaptation measures we go take now the low-lying areas and the coastal areas and for safeguard lives and the slums? We got the local one. This is a nation-based solution. People then they do what they call sea dikes in advanced countries with the technology. But we on local level, we they use sandbag. If you dey Oloshowo, you dey Konakry, you dey Aberdeen, you dey Laka, you dey Hamilton, you dey Bones, you dey all as far as Yeliboya, etc. Boduyabo. Ensure say you put sand na you. Say there are also risk of sea level rise. Where most of them water where they can flash flood happen. Yeah, you go understand say. We don't know this country so they did inside few minutes, 10-15 minutes, rain the waking come, we call it torrential rain under meteorology. And they for inside 2-3 minutes, all side on floods. Okay. What happens when they run down, they find the low-lying areas and they go into the sea, they level the rise, become more water don't go inside. So it's in the happen. Do you do use sandbag so that water not going to take them kind of
okay. Thank you very much.
Of course, then in Success Kamara, the public relations officer and Sierra Leone Meteorological Agency. Same way, so we will get David Joseph Aliyu, the national coordinator for civil society advocacy network on climate change and the environment, Sierra Leone, and we also get Mohamed Elba, the director of communications, National Disaster Management Agency, and the all long help we of months this morning, but the rain season period where we there about and how we serve as Salone people go prepare we serve as we there in the July, August, and September period where of course, would they expect heavy rains?
Well, and so good welcome to this edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone /SL Decide and special edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone, which will continue for the discuss national and trending issues. I've been your presenter, Sonia Jafalin, with me.
Mina Elizabeth Momo.
Have a blessed day.